if you think about like the act of writing a resume, so you work for 15 years, all right? You're working 40, 50 hours a week. You're putting in thousands of hours into something, right? You're building relationships with dozens of people. And then we're like, hey, you have one page, maybe two, to explain these 15 years. It's just not this gets to the next sort of what I think exciting phase of technology is that it's very expensive for a recruiter or anyone to spend hours and hours getting to know someone, right? And if you want to run a recruiting agency, you want to get to know all these people and it's great, but like you only have so much time in the day. And the reason you want to get to know them is because every minute you spend with them, if you spend 30 minutes with someone, you're going to learn more than if they sent you 10 pages of a resume, right? So, where we see AI making a positive impact here is that because AI is conversational now, if you're a job seeker, one of the biggest benefits to you, or if you're a hiring manager, one of the biggest benefits to you is an opportunity to discover what you're looking for really and what you bring to the table really. And a recruiter helps you do that, especially if you get into if you've met people in executive search who do C-level placement, which I've done for some time. You know, when you're talking to VP, C-level people, and you're also hiring on behalf of a company for a VP or a C-level person, this is all about spending hours getting to know people before they get into, a serious interview process. And that really is almost impossible to automate with historical technology. And I still think it's impossible to automate with AI. But I do think you can get a lot further on both sides with a lot of value being created from having conversations with properly trained AIs around your background and skills that can then be used to create a much more multidimensional profile of both a job description and a resume, right? So both sides of this matching equation are much richer, more contextual, more human, more depth, right? And that is, I think, where things are going from a automation perspective and a scalability perspective for the staffing firms that adopt AI in a really smart way, is you can scale the capability of your recruiting team beyond just, sourcing better or what have you, but really like actually understanding the entire candidate universe much, much, much better because the candidates will have an opportunity to explain themselves in a way that goes far beyond a single piece of paper.
100%. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, Sloan. And one thing that you said that I think really sticks out to me is sometimes for very key positions too, the amount of people you need to talk to is really more than most people are willing to do. And to your point, yeah, if you have the right AI tools in place, you can actually hit the numbers you need to hit to find that right match instead of just kind of settling. Where do you feel like, you touched on some of what AI does a really great job of. Where do you feel like it falls short in the recruiting process and where humans really shine in that process still?
Yeah, I think recruiting is going to be one of the last bastions of truly human connection in a job and in a role that's going to be, I think, 10 times more important in a world of AI. And the reason I say that is because presently the role of a recruiter, 60 to 80% of their time is spent on rote, routine, repetitive tasks that ultimately result in conversations that don't really go anywhere and aren't really relevant in that moment. And that doesn't mean that that's a wasted conversation per se, because relationships matter. But sometimes it is. Sometimes, you speak, and a lot of the times you'll speak to someone as a recruiter for a company or for a recruiting agency, and you'll never speak to that person again. And that may be most of the conversations you have. But you have to have those conversations to get the information you need contextualized richly from that individual. And so I do think that recruiters would benefit and companies and job seekers would benefit from the time that we take human to human to be really, really high signal. So if, on example, the typical data of a recruiting firm that does like corporate recruiting or recruiting for tech or recruiting for, sort of healthcare or nursing, an average recruiter might do 12 to 18 phone screens. Some of these last 5, 10 minutes, some of them last 30, 40 minutes, depending, to get sort of basic data. Are you credentialed? Do you have these skills? Do you live in this area? Are you available for work? Are you in the salary range, right? Like what we call a screening call. And then maybe they go a little deeper, right? To get to know the person a bit. But they'll do 12 to 18 times to do a placement or make a hire. And sometimes a lot more. It just depends on a lot of variables. So that's something that you can look at and say, well, where the recruiters really add value is the call kind of after that, right? Like the deeper interview, the setting things up with the hiring manager, the getting feedback, the prepping for future interviews, the working on pre-closure, closure, negotiation, making sure they have transparency about the benefits of the job, like whole process that needs to be facilitated to hire high quality talent that goes beyond just like, are you good for this job? That's the tip of the iceberg. But are you good for this job is where recruiters spend the vast majority of their time, right? At that top of funnel. And with job applications and the way that job boards, are incentivized sometimes to drive a very high volume of applicants and not necessarily spend as much of their effort on quality, you spend even more time screening through people to find those diamonds in the rough, and you spend less time with the quality conversations that add tremendous value on both sides. I'd like to see a recruiter spend 80% of their time talking to candidates they're actually going to place or get hired, and spending more time with those people to build those relationships to maximize the chances that everyone gets what they want, right? Candidate gets
Yeah.
a really great job at the right salary, customer gets a great hire, and recruiter is able to do more placements in a given period. That's ultimately where I think AI can go, but I don't think it does that by taking away the human elements. I think that it just allows these the existing friction point, which is there's no good way to upload my brain and all the knowledge and capabilities and skills I have to a resume, because everyone hates writing resumes. And now when you look at like writing a resume, 60% of them are written by AI or with the support of AI. So the job description is getting written by AI with a prompt, right? So write a job description for my software engineer job. Like you said, it's going to be basically a template. Maybe there's some customization you can do, but it's not, you didn't spend 2 hours interviewing team members really thinking about that job. You just were like, I need this. Let's see what AI can come up with. Fine. But that's your input. If the candidate is now seeing that job description and then writing a resume to match it, to the point where the AI will make the exact same title. So it says Senior Software Engineer 2, San Mateo. Your title on your resume when you apply will be Senior Software Engineer 2, San Mateo. And you're working at some company that was nowhere near San Mateo, but it put it on there. And our technology flags this. There's technology that exists to flag AI generated resumes. But the point is that what else is made up on that resume? What else is a misrepresentation of that person's skills? If all that this AI is doing is like matching the resume to the job description, the reason why job seekers are incentivized to do that is because they know that on the other side, the customer has something that looks at the resume and then uses the keywords and uses the context to try to match it against the job description, which is done by AI. So now you have this complete abstraction away from reality, right? You don't have any connection to what it actually was, which you need to fully evaluate the need for the job, fully evaluate the human through an interview, and then that using those data sets, which are much richer, much more dynamic, much more comprehensive, make the match. So I think we're moving in that direction, but I do think the resume and the job description as we know it are dead.